Welcome back. So in the last video, we learned how to marshal the data structures to JSON, and we also learned how important is the role of content type response header. So in this video, we are going to learn how to do the XML marshaling, and we'll also see how to request the server to send us the data in JSON or XML format. So in the last video, we added a list of dummy customers and then added the appropriate response header, and in the end asked the JSON library to encode the list of all the customers for us. And then we also added these tags as a hint to our JSON encoder. These tags are helpful for encoding and decoding. We'll see in our further examples how these can also be used while decoding the struct. So in this example, we'll be doing the XML marshaling. It would be similar to what we did earlier. We'll use the same handler function and the same dummy list. This time this JSON will become XML. So now we want to tell to the client that the data which we are sending is XML type, and instead of using JSON.new encoder, we will use XML.new encoder. The syntax is exactly same. You just pass the IO writer to it and then encode all the customers in XML format. This is one thing which we have to do, and then come back to the struct. And now we also need to add the tags for XML encoder, and it can be done just by adding them inside the same backtick using the XML key. Let's add it for all of them. And by doing this, we don't need to create two versions of struct. We can use the same data transfer object, and it can handle JSON and XML, both type of data. So that's it. Let's start a server. So let's come back to Postman and send this request. So here we see the XML output. If we go to headers, we'll see the content type coming as application XML. Now let's extend this example. And based on my request, my server should be able to send me JSON or XML type of data. So for that, we'll add the request header here. And while I'm requesting to the server, I can also send the content type header. And we are requesting it to be application XML type. If I'm requesting my server to send me the XML data, I'll send this header. Otherwise, if I'm not sending it, or if I'm asking for JSON specifically, then it will send the JSON. So by default, it will send me JSON, but I can request my server to also send me data in XML format. And let's see how to do that. So the content type will be coming in the request header. And if I use the reference of request and header and say get, I want to get the content type, and let's put a if clause here. I want to say if it is application XML, then we want these two things to happen. Otherwise, in the rest of the cases, we want to send the JSON version back. So let's cut it and paste it here. So by doing this, my code will be able to handle both the conditions. If the client is requesting for XML type of data, it will add the appropriate XML application XML response header, and it will encode the customers in XML format. And for rest of the cases, it will be the JSON data. So let's test it once again. And here we want to request XML. So we have received the content type as XML, and the body is also in XML. And if we remove this content type, send the request again, we'll see the data in the JSON format. So this is how you can use the request header for requesting the server to send the data in the appropriate format. So that's about the XML encoding. Our next video is going to be very interesting. We'll do the code cleanup, and we'll also introduce the Go modules.